I will call the meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. And this is the August 13th Kingston Springs Regional Planning Commission meeting. And I got to make the following statement. I am the chairman, Mike Patnode, and I hereby call to order the August 13th, 2020 meeting of the Kingston Springs Regional Planning Commission. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order 16, this meeting is being conducted with no physical public access. The meeting is being made available, however, to public participants via live video stream on the Zoom application. At this point, I'm going to conduct a roll call of the members. Keith Allgood.
Present.
Tony Campbell.
Here.
Tom Cullen.
Here.
Tony Gross.
Here.
Brian McCain. Brian McCain's absent. Mike Patnode here. Glenn Remick.
Here.
Chuck Slater.
Here.
Bob Stoller.
Here.
And non-voting staff Sharon Armstrong.
Here.
John Lawless.
Here.
Jennifer No.
Here.
And Brittany Stainman.
Here.
Okay, so I will declare a quorum, and then I have to read another statement. The Kingston Springs Regional Planning Commission finds that conducting the meeting by electronic means is necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. So now I need to, and by the way, all votes are taken via roll call. So now I will request a motion that the commission find this necessary to conduct it by electronic means.
Motion.
Motion by, who was that, Tony Gross?
No.
Keith.
I motion here, Tom Cullen.
Okay, so we have a motion by Keith and a second by Tom Cullen. So now I'm going to take a roll call vote on this. Keith Allgood?
Yes.
Tony Campbell?
Yes.
Tom Cullen?
Yes.
Tony Gross?
Yes.
Brian McCain's absent. Mike Patnode, yes. Glenn Remick?
Yes, please.
Chuck Slater?
Yes.
And Bob Stoller?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we've done that. And you have before you the July 9, 2020 Planning Commission meeting minutes, and before you approve them on item 8C in those minutes, in one of the lines it says, it doesn't say golf, it says gold. So it's just a typo there that needs to be changed.
Sorry about that.
No biggie. Anybody else have any changes, or do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, so who was the second?
Keith.
Keith, and who moved?
Tony Campbell.
Tony Campbell, okay.
Something that's kind of useful when you make a motion is to say your name directly afterwards.
Oh, great. Thanks, Tony.
That's
Good
what
suggestion.
the city commission.
And we're all Zoomies. So now I need, you have the Planning Commission agenda for today before you. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved, Cullen.
Second, Tony Gross.
Okay, got that, Brittany?
Yep.
Okay. Under old business, I see none written. However, in last month's minutes, we talked about looking to conduct this meeting in person in the Burns Park building, if that was possible. So apparently we didn't get there. John, do you have anything on that? Is that something that we want to look forward to September? Because it was addressed, but I didn't see any resolution.
It is. Sharon and I spoke about that earlier this week, and we look to September if we cannot all convene in the Burns Park Activity Center, because there is training that needs to be conducted, and it's better to do that in person. If we cannot all get together, then we will try at the very least to do some sort of hybrid solution where people that are able to get to the Burns Activity Center and can do so while we properly social distance, we will do that, as well as perhaps a Facebook Live type of training that we can then project from the activity center itself.
Okay, thanks. So just, we have that for everybody on the record that we will take another shot at this in September. So just so that you're looking that way in case that comes up.
Yes.
So now moving on, so there was no other old business. So new business, the first item is Mike Hargis, re-subdivision of lots 1, 2, and 3, Bluffs of the Harpeth subdivision, final plat. So who is going to speak to that, John?
I will, Mr. Chairman. Sharon Armstrong,
Oh, okay, thank you, Sharon.
you're quite welcome. Mr. Hargis sent a concept review request a couple of months ago asking to combine these 3 lots. I responded to him and advised him that he could combine the 3 lots. I did check. There are no subdivision restrictions for that particular subdivision that prohibit him from combining them. I explained to him that it would become 1 parcel and that as it is 1 parcel, he would need to secure a free LOMA from FEMA because there is flood area on the property. The house nor anything else that's built sits in the flood area. But in order for him not to experience an increase in his flood insurance, he will need to supply an elevation certificate and a LOMA if he wishes to avoid that additional cost. The purpose of the combining of the lots is for him to enter it into the green belt, which is a protection method for non-development.
Oh,
It meets all of our regulations.
okay. So is this going to be, going to be a recommendation to the city commission? Would this be the only time we see this if we were to make that recommendation?
This does not go to the city commission. Subdivision regulations are all a planning commission
Okay,
regulation and documents. So this is the only body that hears this.
okay. So would we be voting to approve this then in this meeting?
I would recommend approval on this. It does meet all of our regulations and it serves the request of the property owner, which is for non-development.
Okay.
We
Pardon me?
approve this request, Tony.
Okay, so Tony Campbell moves that we approve this request. So I have a second?
Second, Tony Gross.
Okay. Is there any further questions or discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, I will take a roll call vote. Keith Allgood,
Yes.
Tony Campbell,
Yes.
Tom Cullen,
Yes.
Tony Gross,
Yes.
Brian McCain's absent, Mike Patnode, yes, Glenn Remick,
Yes, please.
Chuck Slater,
Yes.
and Bob Stoller.
Yes.
Okay, and Glenn Remick gets the politeness award. Okay, so the second item under new business, 8B, Golf Club of Tennessee, widening of Golf Club Drive, consideration of limited site plan revision. So John, who do we have to speak to this?
Sharon.
John?
Sharon.
Yes.
Oh, Sharon, okay. So Sharon, this is item 8B.
Yes, sir. You have in front of you a limited site plan. The golf club wanted to expand the driveway going into the golf club property. There appears to be, sometimes there's stacking of vehicles when people stop to get their mail or visit the kiosk. So they started that project without realizing that it is a change to their site plan. Mr. Hooper furnished a limited site plan of the area that is under construction. Cease was issued until this was approved by the Planning Commission following Planning Commission regulations and rules. So there is no issue. There's no encumbrance or attachment to the road that belongs to the city or the county to consider. Is simply a change to their site plan to widen a private drive into the golf course property.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion on this?
So moved.
So Tony Gross,
Second. All good.
First one.
okay. So Tony Gross moved, Keith Allgood second.
Just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, it was Tony Campbell that made the motion.
Okay, thank you. So any Further questions or discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, I will take a roll call vote on item 8B, the Golf Club of Tennessee widening of Golf Club Drive. Keith Allgood,
Yes.
Tony Campbell,
Yes.
Tom Cullen,
Yes.
Tony Gross,
Yes.
Brian McCain's absent, Mike Patnode, yes, Glenn Remick,
Yes.
Chuck Slater,
Yes.
Bob Stover.
Yeah.
Okay, the motion passes. And then under new business, we have for discussion only 2 items. The first of which is transitional zoning, Ingram property, proposed HUD. Who's going to speak to that?
That would be me, Mr. Chairman, and I believe Mr. Hooper has joined us from the Golf Club of Tennessee. I spoke at a conference today with Mr. Hooper and Mr. Howell from the Golf Club of Tennessee. They indicated that they would be providing a proposed layout for the development of this property. A general layout of the development scenario is required before the proposed zoning is considered, the rezoning of the property. So they anticipate having that and some comments on the draft zoning we presented to you 2 months ago. I believe by early next week or the end of next week was what I was told by Mr. Howell, but Mr. Hooper is here and he can answer that question as well.
Correct, Ms. Armstrong. We'll have it to you by next week.
Okay. Is there anything else, Sharon, that we need to answer or hear on this?
I don't believe so, other than a general layout of the proposed development will help us to refine the elements of the transitional zoning. As you know, it's a very large piece of property. And without a general layout, we're unable to establish appropriate areas of development and open space. So the provision of that by the golf club will be very helpful for us.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on this?
Why a PUD, please?
Pardon?
Why do you want to put a PUD restriction on this property?
I don't know that it's so much, Mr. Cullen, a PUD restriction as it is the PUD provides flexibility to the underlying zone that would be specific to this project. As you know, golf courses are very unique. They're different than other commercial zones. So it allows a flexibility of the PUD to be overlaid, which gives the Planning Commission more flexibility in the way that it deals with this property than it would if it were just a straight traditional zoning district.
I recognize that, but the only place we've done it up to now has been at the light at the top of the hill.
Yes, sir. The reason for the light at the top of the hill project was a very different one than the one for this. While there are some elements of golf course, a public golf course that are commercial in nature, the store that sells clubs, clothing stores, restaurants, those are somewhat commercial, but the bulk of the development of this will be kind of a passive activity, which a golf course is, and then there is a proposed element for a residential component. So the PUD overlay on top of the transitional zone doesn't open a C1 door very far because it's not a C1 commercial zone purely, and it gives flexibility to the design.
Well, this is Tony Campbell speaking. I have some concerns. Yes, I need to understand the transitional zoning better. So before I vote on it, I'm going to have to come to grips with that.
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons, Mr. Campbell, and thank you for making that comment. It's one of the reasons why I really would prefer to meet in person next month so that we can have that face-to-face discussion about a transitional zone. It's the first one that's been proposed in Kingston Springs. The alternatives that were available to Mr. Ingram for development were R1A, which would not allow a public golf course, or the accoutrements that go with it, the restaurants and other things that they desired to have But we also did not want it to be a pure commercial zone because that opens a very wide door. So I agree with you. This is something that needs to be discussed, and that's why one of the reasons why I suggested to John, if all possible, maybe we could use Burns Park to have that broader discussion, and we'll have a preliminary layout or concept of what they wish to do, hopefully by the time that meeting occurs.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on this item? Okay. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Jeff. By the way, I know Jeff, so that's why I use his first name. I go to church with him. All right, so the next item, 9B, update on McPherson property, East Kingston Springs Road. Who's going to speak to that?
That would be me again, Mr. Chairman and Sharon. Mr. McPherson had kind of dropped the project for several months. As you know, we haven't heard from him. He was overseas. He is back in town. I received the final plat. If you'll remember, we had a preliminary plat, but not a final, for the combining of those lots in order for the development to proceed forward. The final plat has been furnished. I have returned comments to the surveyor. There are a couple of things that need to be revised. One of them including the easement that belongs to Miss Downs that lies within that private road. So I want that included as an attachment to the plat so that there will never be a question that she has right to access. And I wanted that spelled out within that private road. And then there is also an easement that belongs to Miss Eva Lee on the other side of the property that lies within the utility district for Dixon Electric easement. So I wanted that noted on the plat as well. So you will be seeing this final plat, and I have been told development plans at the next Planning Commission meeting in September.
Okay, any other questions on this item? Okay. Are there any other items that we have to discuss tonight? Okay, so we're good. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Glenn.
From Glenn. Do we have a second?
Second, Tony Gross.
And I don't hear anybody voting nay. So thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.